Hey, welcome to Her Restored Spirit podcast. My name is Tami, and well, this is the second time I'm recording this particular podcast because this morning, as I was recording this one and several others, because I'm getting ready to go on vacation, so I'm trying to stretch it and get them done in advance, and Zoom decided to mess up. So I apologize if it seems like I'm searching for words, which I'm going to try not to do that because it was really good. And there's so many things that I wanted to share, and I'm hoping that I can recall that as I am going here and as I go. But today we're going to continue the fact that, well, hi, it's me. I'm the problem. And yes, you and I are still our own problems. We spend time staying in our own way. We get in our own way because it's familiar, because we understand it, because when there's success, we don't quite understand what that is. And so we just get in our own way, and it stops us from achieving what we want, going for the dream. It stops us from really experiencing life the way we want it to. Last week, I talked about the first three things that, that we get in our own way. The first one being that we don't actually stop to listen to our own thoughts. We don't look and decide. We allow it to be external things without even considering the fact that we're getting in our own way. And it's funny because if you ask, typically we know the answer that, what's stopping you? It's me. So that's the first one. The second one, we talked about not practicing whole self-care. You cannot pour from an empty cup. We don't even do self-triage well, and it's showing. Because when we serve from a full cup, when we serve from a whole being, we can serve out of the excess and gracefully and gratefully, and it doesn't steal from the reserves that we have. We don't feel resentment about it. We don't feel like we have to protect any of our resources when we are full. So that's the second one, is we don't practice good whole self-care. The third one is we settle for mediocrity. How many times do you look at what other people have and what they're doing and think, well, wouldn't that be nice? But for me, this is my lot in life. This is what I'm doing. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. We settle for less because it's easy, because it's familiar, because we know how to handle this. We may be in comfortable fear, but trying to do something a little bit different and we have to do something different to get a different result. I think it was Einstein that says that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, we decide that we pour into the others, all the others, our people, our kids, our families, our work, our friends, our service, our ministries, everything. And then when it comes to us, we get the scraps. We don't allow for us to actually move forward, and we accept the mediocrity, which is getting in our way because you deserve more. And the reason why you deserve more is because God created you for more. It's because when you step into what He has planned, which He talks about His abundance plans He has for you. Do you think that He has abundant plans for everyone else, and for you, He's like, okay, Tami, I gave these amazing plans for everyone, and then for you, I'm going to give mediocrity. I'm just going to let it be and see how things go. It's like, is that acceptable? And it's like, no, that's not what God did. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I think my AirPods just went out and then back in again, or they may have gone out. So I hope that you can hear this because I don't really want to record it a third time. I mean, let's just hope I don't have to. So anyway, let's dive in. Let's dive into what else is getting in our way. What are ways that we are getting in our own way? And we're failing to create goals, and we are not defining expectations. So many times we don't define the things that we take for granted that we know what they mean. The word like expectations, we know what an expectation is, and yet it is a variable. Expectations for one area of your life do not match the others. Expectations for even one child, like, one is really good in art and one is really like excels in science, which, I mean, we know the balance. We know that both of them are similar, but they like the artistic and creative and the concrete and logical. We know. So we don't set up the same expectations for both of those kids, right? And yet if you don't define them, you don't know that. You don't actually, if you didn't take time and say, you know what, so and so, like my son, he's incredibly creative, but he is also very logical the way he sees things. This is the way it is, and this is how it's going to be. And so whereas my daughter is like, oh, let's look at, like, this is the way it is, I'm going to go all the way around it. And so having the expectations for a project for my daughter may be to get organized and finish, and my son may be to come up with a new way to do it. Same thing, but different expectations for it, which, again, if I did not define it, I wouldn't know. How many times do you have expectations for yourself that you did not define, and so you never actually can hit it? And they stop us because they make us feel guilty. They make us feel like we're not enough. Not enough of what? Not enough of what? Like, that's the problem here. And so we get in our own way by not defining what these expectations are. The next one I have is not taking enough risks. We like things safe. Safe is not growth. Safe is taking the easy way and not taking enough risks. And I'm not talking about like jumping out of an airplane. I'm talking about like those social risks, befriending someone who God places on your heart, standing up for something, starting a book club. It doesn't have to be something dangerous. It just needs to be out of our comfort zone. We stay in our comfort zone, in the familiar. And if you heard my last podcast about the opposite of familiar is success. The opposite of fear is not success. And that's where we are here. When you're not taking risks, you are staying in the familiar. You're not going to get a success. And so what can you do but take a risk? And know that a lot of these risks that we're avoiding are not actually physical, they're emotional, which our body treats, our mind treats as a physical threat. And so we stop and we're like, okay, but will we die by starting this, by trying it? Are we at physical danger by standing up and saying, you know what, I'm going to start a Bible study, or I'm going to create a book club, or I'm going to start I'm just going to meet some ladies for coffee, and so we can chat and we can connect. So I'm going to start my own business. No, you're not in a physical threat to do this. But when we stay in the familiar and stop taking risks, we don't grow. We get in our way because it feels safer. It's not comfortable. We've got this thing, especially if God placed something on your heart to do. You're not comfortable with that. It's nagging. It's pulling on you. And yet, because we're not willing to take a risk, and step out of our comfort zone, we will never experience what's out there. We will never get out of our own way if we don't take more risks. And encourage our kids to do it too. Like, model that. Like, it's okay if you fail. That means you have more information, and next time you can do things a little different. You can teach your kids how to bounce back. You can teach your kids how to laugh it off. You can show people around you that it's okay to do something different. So the next one I have is not believing in yourself. This is different than setting too high expectations, or expectations that are not defined, so we don't even know if they're too high, and not taking enough risks. How many times have you thought, well, I don't have that skill. I'm just not good enough. I just don't know. And we get to this point where it's, well, we get used to not believing in ourselves. This was also going with that mediocrity, expecting that we don't believe in ourselves. Like, well, it would be nice, but, oh, it would be nice if I could do that, or I should do it. But we don't trust ourselves. When we don't trust ourselves, we're not trusting God. And in fact, we need to trust God more than we trust ourselves. We need to realize that it's not only up to us, that when we take risks, especially if it's something that God's put on our heart, we may not do the right thing, but that doesn't matter. He can just tap us into place. He directs our path. But if you don't believe in yourself, when you take that step, you're almost planning to fail. You're almost planning to fall. Instead of saying, you know what? Hell or high water, this is happening. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that leap, that I'm going to have that courage to just say yes one time to myself. And then when you do that, you can do one more time and then one more time. And now you have a habit of saying, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that I will figure things out. I will bounce back. I will come back and I will succeed, even if it is in just figuring out the wrong ways to do things. But I can do it. When we don't believe in ourselves, we're showing our families, we're showing our kids, we're showing other women around us when we're not taking those risks to prove that we believe in ourselves. We're bringing doubt to them as well. Because how many times have you thought, well, if she could do it, so can I? Or someone says, hey, I've done it, you can too. Be the person who tries. This next one that I have for you is not having an accountability partner. We can't see our own blind spots. We cannot see, a lot of times, we can't see quickly how we're getting in our own way. When you have an accountability partner who is willing to step up and say, no, do you see how you're procrastinating? Oh, I forgot that one. We're procrastinating too. We'll talk about that after, but having an accountability partner will show you that. But if you are someone who can motivate you to take the risk, can say, I'll be here if you fall, to help you stand back up. Someone who is not going to just encourage you, but confront you and push you, and maybe even take risks together. Because there is something that happens when you are working towards, even if it's two different goals, but you're doing it together. That accountability, that encouragement, that inspiration, that pull that you get from having someone else who will be willing to make you uncomfortable, to say the real things to you, to confront you when you are not having undefined expectations, when you are not taking enough risks, when you are not practicing whole self-care, and when you're settling for mediocrity, or when you are doing something simply because you don't believe in yourself enough. The accountability partner will push you, because they know and they pray for you, and and you can do it for them as well. It's not just a friend. This is like a friend with bonus, this is a friend who is going to light the fire and help you keep it going. And now we'll go back to procrastination. This is one of my all-time favorites. I used education as a form of procrastination for years. I'll just learn one more thing. I'll just do this one. I'll just do it later. I'm talking with this lady over DMs, and we're going back and forth, and she's like, oh, I'm just so, I know I need to work with you. I know that I need this. I'm just too busy. Next month, things will calm down next month. And I was like, okay, but you realize you've said that for the last 3 months. Has it been true yet? Let's look back in your history. When have you had less responsibility or less things to do in the future than you had currently? I know that in the future, I'm going to have a lot more things to do. So now I ask myself, what will future Tami thank me for, instead of saying, oh, future Tami can deal with that. Like, that is one of the big shifts, that when I stop doing that, when I ask myself, okay, I feel that I want to put this off, but what will future Tami thank me for? And then I take that risk and I do it. Procrastination is something that I don't have time and all of these things. Well, you're never going to have time unless you make time. There's something in there that you're procrastinating that you know will change your life. What is it? Identify it and then push anyway. Take the risk anyway and do it. All right, the next one is not creating a plan. We don't take time to actually sit down and decide, okay, look at what's getting in our way. What do we want? We don't sit down and I just finished that 30 days of journaling, and many people sent me a message and said, the crazy thing is that these are all questions, like none of them were a question that I've never asked before, but most of them are questions that I've never sat down and actually answered. Or I would answer it in a partly, and I would not give myself time to answer it all the way through. I would get to a part that was hard, that it was a little scary to write down, and so I would avoid it. Creating a plan doesn't mean that everything's going to go according to that. That's not what creating a plan is for. But how can you start working towards what you want if you don't actually sit down and define it? You don't create it. You don't give yourself that space to say, I'm worth it. I know that God has a plan for me. He may change it. My plans have changed multiple times, but it's still that sense of, okay, I know my next step. I know my next step. I know my next step comes from creating a plan. We have to, in order to define things. That's one thing. So my son this last year was doing debate. And one of the key elements is to define the terms, and then the other team either accepts it or brings their own. And they work to see, okay, let's start from a solid ground on an even footing, where once we define the key terms, then we now know what we're arguing about, what we're debating. Creating a plan, having a goal, those expectations, everything, this is also part of it. You've got to start with definitions. What does success look like? What am I going to do? How will I know that I am going the right way? How will I bounce back when I know that I fall? How will I recognize that I'm starting to procrastinate or getting in my own way? So by creating this plan and defining these things for yourself, it actually sets you up for success and makes it so clear that your brain's like, oh, I got you. I can do that. This is easy. And so that's the whole point. Make a plan. You don't have to stick to it 100%. You don't. The last one that I have for you is not taking advantage of the resources. This is so interesting because we are in a day and age where information is on overload. How many times have you gotten something free and you are, or even if you paid for it and didn't utilize it? You were like, okay, well, I don't have my time right now. I will read that book later. Or you read it but don't implement anything in it. It's no good to just consume information. You actually need to sit down and do it. When you know that you're getting in your way, and I would love to know what of these things resonate with you, or if there's other ways that you get in your own way, yeah, let's chat about them, because I would love to know. But use your resources. This podcast is a wealth of information on how to find your next step. Listen to it and then answer the questions that I ask. If you just listen to it, it's gonna tickle your ears and it will help get you motivated. But if there's no action behind it, you're gonna be in the same spot now, in the same spot a year from now, and on until you take action, until you decide for yourself right now that it's enough is enough and I'm not going to stay here anymore. So take advantage of all the information. And And when I say to DM me with your questions, like I mean it. It's send me your questions and let's chat. You could go and start scouring the internet for these answers and for things. You also know, I truly believe that you actually know what your next step is, but sometimes we don't want to admit it to ourselves, or all of these things we talked about are blocking us from seeing it. So when you are looking at the resources, like, make it easy on yourself. One of the things that I created, this Discover You membership community, and I am opening the Facebook group for it. Actually, by the time this airs, the Facebook group will already be open for it, and it's for members only. But we're talking in May, we talked about core values, and we're going to dive in. And honestly, when it comes to identity, core values are really at the center. So we're going to be talking about that often. But each month we have journal questions. We have an interactive workshop where we dive in and start to define and create a plan. And all these things that we talk about, I share ways to get out of your own way, to break down what you want into smaller steps, and really create the life that you are excited about. The excitement, the life that you love, and the life that you deserve. I know that many of you, you're at the point where your life is kind of shifting. I'm at the point where my kids, I am just a matter of months away from my son driving, and I'm excited and nervous all at the same time. I'm actually more excited than nervous. I feel like he's he's logical, he's pretty safe. And I realized that this is my time to really, I want to show him what it is to take risks and to try and put yourself out there. And I want to use this time that I've earned. I have worked my butt off as a mom, and I will always be a mom. And they don't need me the same way that they always have. I've kind of graduated with them as they're graduating, going from the toddler to the school age. Now they're in the middle school, and actually, middle school for my daughter and high school for my son. I'm graduating with them, and I'm hitting these milestones where now it's time for me to really define and look at who am I and who do I want to become. What is the next phase of my life going to look like? What is this next stage? How am I going to impact it? How am I going to influence those around me? How can I use all of these skills and the strengths that God's given me? How can you use all of these skills and strengths that God's giving you to make an impact, to influence, to shape the world around us, to serve the world around us? So use these resources. Get out of your own way and know that it's not comfortable, but it's a lot of fun. We can laugh about it, we can cry about it, we can have all the feelings about it. But if you continue to get into your own way and you actively work against what you're called to do, you're gonna feel heavy. It's gonna feel like misaligned, and you're gonna feel like there's more. And then you're gonna lie to yourself and think, well, it must be for other people. This must be where I am. And I just want to let you know that you are worthy of a beautiful life. You have those expectations. There are expectations that you can reach, and you can take risks, and you can stop procrastinating, and you can have an accountability partner, and you can believe in yourself because God believes in you. I want you to know that I'm here, and there's a whole community of women who are all just like you and are ambitious, and not in just the I want to succeed, but in I want to do life well. I am ambitious in that because I want to show my kids what's possible with life. And I also want to show, and I want to help those around me know that whatever their circumstances are, they do not have to define them. And you can live an exciting life and love what you're doing. And though I know that there's things that I said the first time I recorded this that I missed, I still hope that you got something out of it. I think I hit all the key points, what I wanted to say, and I definitely spoke from my heart. And I know, Well, all of these things, this is not judgment, because every one of these things are things that I deal with as well. And I use them now to propel me, to let me know that, oh, if I'm getting in my way, there must be something to it. And that's what I want you to think too, is if I'm getting in my own way by this many ways, there must be something to this thing that I want to do, this dream, this vision, this way that I want to serve. There must be something to it. So with that, friend, I cannot wait to talk to you again next week. Choose joy until joy chooses you. Bye for now.